I can make that work. The background contains some comforting tunes of yesterday, which make you want to dance, sing, or dance and sing. You can pepper in singing harmonies of both a cappella or piano side, and there you have a recipe of nights you want to last forever. Going to Ron's world is like Disneyland. You won't need thrill rides to make it worth your time. The theme of magic is endless enough, and you always leave feeling better than when you came. Such is the magic wand Ron had. My fondest memories. Presents wrapped in black and white comics from newspapers, indeed you know Ron was there. A shirt that read, "If you think I'm cute, you should see my uncle." Ron was there. The opening line to his inquisitives, "What's new?" Or finding of the latest books you've read, New Year's resolutions, art reveals, goals in business, painting, lessons learned, future endeavors, and dreams to discuss, because he cared enough to influence a passion of life worth pursuing. You could do no wrong when Ron was there. He set up a pillow of obstacles when I was younger so I could pretend to play horsey while all the cameras were rolling, but I would do it because Uncle Ron was there. He just built up my self-esteem and made me feel like I was free to be me, and that is how it was when Ron was there. He was that easy. I mean, disagreeing with him is even a cakewalk because he listened with purpose and talked a little louder when it was his favorite time to talk about his favorite topic, his own point of view. Afterward, the disagreement and snarling would end in a salutary acknowledgement of either a Bloody Mary or a competitive game in bingo. I loved his light-up 7-Up marquee announcing the latest in the times of Casa Macadamia. Do you know Ron's paintings? Stoneface, my favorite with its mosaic of colors, cards that showed 45, Dragonfly, the painting I call Ellen after he told me why, and the Piscitelli elephant adventure, so controversial. He was there for parties, holidays, graduations, children, apartment christenings, Halloween was another favorite, barbecues and haircuts at Mom's salon. He personified celebration and tradition. My all-time favorite was an occasion, and I cannot right now recall what for, but he invited the family over for a wine glass toss into the fireplace. I think that was New Year's. But
No, just because it was on his bucket list.
Oh, it was on his bucket list. You should have been there. It was awesome. I was not there, obviously. Just kidding. That's who he was. Awesome. Ron personifies celebration and tradition and leaves that legacy with Pia, Alex, and Ellen. Forgive me, but I was absolute in deciding not to speak, let alone write anything, but I was guided with how to fill in the blank of my dreams, cliffhanger. Memories of Ron, waved over me like a magical wand. For in my totality of acceptance, I would be disappointed in myself if I didn't speak about Ron, who was so special to me when I had spoken for everyone else before him today. I am honored to call him my uncle. Even now in my dreams, I know he's still there. That's from David. So, thank you all for being here. It means a lot to us. And yeah, I'm going to take this. So I have 2 comments based on those 2 stories. So one, when the story that David shared about the wine glass throwing. So one of the things my dad made a list of all the things he wanted to do. And one of them was he always wanted to throw a wine glass in the fireplace. So we had a party about it. We got cheap wine glasses from like the dollar store. And you'd be surprised at how hard it is to break a wine glass. They must have to do 100 takes in the movie because we'd throw it in and it would bounce out, or it would just stay in their hole. I think did that happen to Auntie Etta? They had to stay in their hole, and we had to pick out a wine glass after. But we eventually got the hang of it, and we all got to check that off our bucket list. So the story that I have based on Tara's story. So at Tara's wedding, the question of dancing at Macarena. So I always like to make fun of him. So you can understand me telling this. It's something I absolutely believe. He knew the Macarena back and forth. It's very hard to find the right timing. I always get it wrong. I really do. I always get it wrong because you think it's going to start, but actually when you hear the music later, you're not in line with the chorus. He was the only one right. Everyone made fun of him over it, and he was the only one right. And I would bet my life on that because, trust me, if anyone was wrong in it, I'd be the first one to make fun of him. But he was the only one right.
Such man was right. He said everybody else was wrong.
Yeah, well, he did, but, you know, that's the type of person he was. He wasn't afraid to be himself and be the individual, even if it meant that everyone else made fun of him. And that's one thing I really like about it. So next, I'm going to read, we have two things, so you're going to hear my voice more often. One of them was from his niece, my cousin from Kansas, and her name is Lori, and I'm going to read what she wrote. So she said, Ron Piscitelli made me feel safe. He was the father I never had. As a child, I wanted to stay next to him and Ellen. We would play games, sing, and dance. This was the way of life for us. He is vested in my ability to win. Most all of his advice would start with, well, first you need to make a list. Even the hard advice that I didn't want to hear at the time now rushes through me like a song that is set to keep playing over and over. His influence to show love of family, culture, art, history, and so much more can be seen through the eyes of my children. The importance of tradition is evident to me now. He believed in me and made me feel like he loved me, like a daughter. I love you, Uncle Ron. Thank you for being there for me when I needed you. Thank you for the unconditional love you give me. To my mother, to my sisters, our bond and family will be there forever. Your loving niece, Lori. So that was from her. Next, we're going to have up his brother, my uncle, Paul, say a few things.
Sorry.
Well, last night when I was thinking of what I was going to say, I started to prepare a speech, and as the Toastmasters probably know, you prepare three speeches when you prepare one. The one you prepare, the one you give, and the one you wish you had given. You know, and really, what I really want to say, really simply, is that I love my brother, and I miss him. But what's so interesting about Ron was that since he's been gone, you don't realize, how much you do love him, or how much you do really miss him. And for a guy that was born in, I believe, 1952-2014, well, that dash represents his life and everything that happened in it, and you're all part of it. We're all part of it. And if you had any kind of relationship, which I'm sure you did, I'm sure you all have stories, and they're just like what we've heard. By the way, everybody did such a great job that it brought back a lot of memories. It was really fun to listen to everybody. So, all that aside, that's really all I want to say. But let me share a couple of stories with you. And by the way, we were brothers, and you heard all good. I'm not going to tell you about the bad, because we're real brothers, and real brothers sometimes have those tumultuous, knockdown, drag-out type of situations, that occur during your life. But where we did really have common ground, as I was telling some of you earlier, is, for example, Ron and politics. He was really brilliant. He was somebody, if you ever had the pleasure of discussing politics with him, he really had a viewpoint, regardless of whether or not he was right or wrong, but a very effective way that he represented it, pretty amazing. And, I felt a little bit intimidated, so I listened twice as hard than I spoke when we discussed politics. But the common ground that we had was sports. We liked to watch sports together, and he knew a lot about that. And we had the pleasure of my family, my immediate family, my wife, my son, my daughter-in-law. I had the pleasure of Ron coming back to Boston with us. We actually went to Patriot Denver game, and we had an opportunity to spend a week together, eat together, break bread together, laugh, get to know one another, and it was really great. And that didn't happen too long ago. But let me share just a couple of stories and let me tell you something, I'm getting older, and if I get into a sort of a belly laugh, it seems as though I can't even catch my breath, you know what I mean? I have to run to an inhaler or something when I talk to this guy. This guy was really funny. Now, some of you may have heard this story, some of you may not, some of you may think it's funny, but I'm going to tell you what, it hit my funny bone to the point that I couldn't breathe, you know what I mean? Because I take things serious. But the other area that we love to discuss together was business. You know, he was in his business, I'm in my business. And so they were great discussions. But anyway, anytime he talked about motivation, which he actually helped me out with several of his recommendations, you know, throughout my business lifetime, believe it or not, he'd come up with some great things that helped me. I actually listened to him, and I applied them, and they were nothing more than truisms that, you know, if you apply it, they work. And, you know, he was on top of his game, and he helped me out a great deal. But anyway, he was telling me one day that he wanted to train his cat, you know. So I'm listening to him. He said, you know, I'm watching a football game, and, you know, I see the cat there. What I want the cat to do is turn over. So I run and get a cat treat, you know, and I'm doing this. And eventually, you know, the cat caught on, started rolling over, see? And so, you know, you try it again, grab a treat, and the cat would roll over on the floor. And then he said, you know, I'm watching the game, and the cat would come in front of me and start rolling over. And I'm watching the game, and I'd be getting up, and I'd walk over and grab a treat. He said, and he finally dawned on me, he said, who the hell's training? It's the greatest story. And it is the truth. The cat, from that moment on, would just come in the room, start rolling over, and he was dead meat. He had to go out there. So, another story. Now, this is more family. You know, we grew up in that traditional, my parents were from Italy, and we grew up in that American-Italian atmosphere, you know, where they were trying to speak more English, but, you know, we're a loud family, just sort of like you see on television. You know, I mean, you see everybody whacking everybody. If we were on a line at the table, my dad used to sit at the head of the table, and I'd be on his right, my brother would be on his left. And, you know, we were always goofing off as kids, and he'd go, you know, just trying to straighten us up. But there was so much love there. But anyway, he most recently was into filming, you know, documenting family portraits. He was like the glue within our family that would either collect these old family portraits, you know, and document them on disc. So it just so happened, and here he is telling me this story. My niece, Sherry, who lives in Kansas, got married, you know, way back when. And he found all the photographs, I guess, and documented the whole wedding. So, and he was excited about this, you know, completing this project. So he sent the tape back to her, you know, the disc. And then he'd call her up, you know, a week or so later, and he'd say, did you look at the disc? And she said, no, not yet. And anyway, this exercise went on for about 6 months. Here he sent her this, you know, this wedding disc. And every time he called her, she never looked at it. So finally one day, he's really putting the pressure on her, you know. After about 6 months, he's going, come on, did you look at the disc? Did you look at the disc? And she says, who's in it? And he had me laughing so hard at that. I mean, it's funny. Who's in her wedding? Good question. Good comeback. But anyway, that's really all I have to say. I know all of you, like I said, share those intimate, personal moments with Ron, and you know, he was really special. And you know, life, we believe that, you know, under my family believes, you know, we of the Christian faith, we believe that the day you die is really better than the day you were born, and that's how it's stated in the Bible. And so we know that Ron is doing whatever he's doing, and we have faith in that. But still, it's always a short time. My sons would say to me, hey, Dad, you know, you're on